The Wisp, Chapter 23. The chiming of her grandfather clock reached into her sleeping mind, and slowly Bara woke. Her eyes fluttered open as gently as a butterfly might take flight. She stretched and yawned. It had been a truly wonderful sleep, and for a short moment she forgot everything, the dreams, the wisp, and even her stepmother. The curtains were pulled and the room was dark. Tempted just to go back to sleep, Bara closed her eyes, but it was no use. She was utterly rested. The bliss was short-lived. Somewhere, a phone rang. Bara thought she was in her dorm room, but there was no landline on her floor. No, she was in the pink palace at her father's new house. Like a tsunami, everything came flooding back, washing away that little butterfly, washing away the calm, and leaving behind confusion and fear. Light she needed to see. Fumbling in the darkness, Bara clicked on the bedside lamp and looked around. There wasn't much new about the room. It was as pink as ever. The only addition was the tea set and a half-eaten muffin on the bedside table. Gloria had brought them up on Courtney's orders. The remains looked so harmless lying there, so homey. Bara picked up the muffin and sniffed. Nothing. She dropped it back on the plate and lifted the rim of the teacup to her nose. It smelled of chamomile and something else, something bitter, something it shouldn't smell of. Normally it took her a while to fall asleep. She'd been tired, but not that tired. Had Courtney drugged her? There was a melodic rap on the door. Courtney. Bara thought about pretending she was still sleeping to stall, but there was a second knock, this time more insistent, and then a soft voice spoke through the door. "Can I come in?" Courtney called. Escape. There was the window. The pink palace was only on the second floor, but the double ceilings of the first made it more like the third. Colin probably wouldn't have had a problem scaling down, but Bara didn't like her chances. A fall would mean a hard landing on a stone patio, a broken leg if she were lucky, a broken neck if she weren't. Courtney came again. "Bara." There was no escape. Her stepmother wasn't going away. Bara faced the inevitable. "Come in," she returned. The door swung and Courtney entered, carrying another tray of food. She placed the tray on the bed and removed the teacup to the bedside table. She took a seat next to the bed and set about readying the tea. "Good morning, or should I say good evening," she chimed as she stirred. "You slept the whole day away. I thought you might be hungry." "More tea." So thoughtful. "How long will I sleep for this time? Or maybe I won't wake up at all?" In an instant, Bara had decided the best defense was a good offense. Courtney looked alarmed but recovered quickly. Her face changed into something else, something harder to read. Taking the spoon from the tea, she placed it on the saucer and then with great ceremony took a sip. A steady hand replaced the cup next to the spoon. "You know," she said in a flat tone, "about you drugging me? Yeah. Your father told me everything, and Dad told her everything? How could he?" Bara started, but then the shock left. Of course her father hadn't believed her. Seriously, why would he? None of this had happened to him. If she hadn't been so deliriously tired, she wouldn't have told him anything. But there was no going back. Not now. Courtney was still talking. "I just thought with all the goings-on you needed an undisturbed sleep. You did sleep. You weren't bothered with any more nightmares." "Nightmares?" Bara echoed. "I may be a teenager, but I'm not stupid, Courtney." "I don't think you're stupid. I know things." Courtney raised an eyebrow. "Perhaps, but you're just a girl. Stay out of this. You're dealing with forces far stronger than you." "I guess you'd like that, wouldn't you?" "Yes, very much." Courtney was calm, her voice so soft it all but caressed the listener. She shouldn't sound like that, Bara silently screamed. She should sound like an old woman, hoarse and rough. Her eyes were round and looked as gentle as her voice sounded. Her skin was flawless, her mouth youthful and full. No, she shouldn't look like that either. She should be old and ugly. Courtney was neither, and Bara's anger grew because of it. "I don't care that my dad doesn't believe me. I know you're a witch. I know the truth." Courtney took another sip of tea. She put the cup down on the saucer, this time with a clink. She took a deep breath and looked Bara in the eye. "There seems no point in denying anything, is there? Yes, my dear, you could most definitely call me a witch." Bara backed up against the headboard. "Now I want you to stay calm," Courtney said. "We're all alone and we need to talk." "What do you mean we're all alone?" Bara jumped up from the bed, upending the food tray. She ran to the door and called for her father. "Your father's working late. Dad's gone." She couldn't be alone with Courtney. Maybe the maid. "Gloria, can you come up here?" Bara called. The house was silent. "She's gone too," Courtney confirmed. Courtney rose and crossed the room to Bara. She touched her shoulder. The touch was no heavier than a falling snowflake, but it made Bara feel she'd been doused with wet cement. She was stuck to the spot. "It's just the two of us," Courtney continued. "I didn't want to risk being overheard." Run down the hall and stairs and out the door, Bara's instincts insisted. But could she get away? The wet cement feeling was still with her. No, running away would mean she'd never know what Courtney had to say. She needed to know more. "Okay," Bara said. "I'm listening. You have Nelson's diary. How much have you read? I think it's best that we're honest with each other. Tell me everything you know." Her tongue unraveled itself. "I know you're a witch and that you're immortal or something. You lived in a maze with someone named Martha. She was a witch too. Why am I telling her this?" "Yes," Courtney prodded. "She has me under a spell," Bara thought. She said, "And I know that you kept Nelson Sedgwick a prisoner, and I know you're evil." "I'm evil? You drugged me, for crying out loud. Stop trying to confuse me." "You're already confused. Give me the diary. It's not for you." "Not the diary." Bara suddenly snapped out of the trance. "No, you can't have it." Courtney's voice was sharp. "I need the diary. Where is it?" Bara stood firm, but her eyes betrayed. Her glance wavered to the bag hanging on the back of the chair. It was only for a split second, but Courtney saw it. Suddenly free of the psychic cement, Bara sprang. Courtney did the same. Courtney was much closer to the chair, closer to the bag. She had the strap in her grip before Bara reached the chair. Desperation took over, and Bara grabbed ferociously, pushing Courtney away at the same time. Like a deathly battle over a turkey wishbone, the strap broke in two. Bara held the favored piece, but the force of her push and the give-way of the cotton bag would have disastrous results. There was a sound of breaking glass. Bara looked up to see, as in slow motion, the falling body of her stepmother, as first her arms and torso, followed by her waist and legs, went through the jagged mouth of the broken window. Last were the red soles of her size 8 pink pumps. Bara reached out, but it was too late. Courtney was gone. Like they were applauding, the pink curtains flapped in the tumult. Bara stood next to the broken window with the torn bag in her hand. She had been intent on keeping the diary. This she'd done, but at what cost? What should she do now? Somewhere inside her came the answer. Help your stepmother. She broke from her shock and stepped closer to the window. She pushed through the clapping curtains and past the broken glass. Shuddering, she noted the blood on the jagged shard ends. Courtney had been cut on the way through. Expecting to see her stepmother's body, broken and bent, Bara looked down. There were the lawn statues, mute and motionless witnesses to her crime. There were the pink pumps, now empty of her stepmother's lovely legs. But that was it. Shards of broken glass littered the path, but Courtney definitely wasn't there. In an instant, her view of the ground was blocked. Something large, something far too immense to be a bird, had dropped in front of Bara and now hung suspended. Bloody, with her usual neat hair loose and blowing in the wind, was Courtney Kavanagh. She floated in mid-air. Attached in a rope, she'd flown. Any concern for her stepmother dissolved in fright. Bara backed away from the window. Courtney still hovered, looking back. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, and Bara had no trouble pushing the chair in front of the window before bolting. Her hand a claw around the torn strap of the bag, she fled the room. Just as she reached the stairs, a loud crash came from the Pink Palace. Courtney had re-entered the house. Down the stairs Bara ran, but running was pointless. Courtney could fly. Bara stopped in the foyer. She had to outthink her stepmother. She opened the front door, but didn't go through. She darted into the study, hid behind a large chaise lounge, held her breath, and waited. She didn't hear any footsteps, but rather sensed her stepmother's descent. The reason for the lack of footfalls became obvious. Courtney hadn't run down the stairs, but flown. She soared out the door in pursuit. All that was missing was a broom. Bara ran for her coat. She fled to the back of the house. Leaving through the rear door, she prayed to be gone long before Courtney figured out what had happened. She'd bought herself some time, enough time to escape. She didn't know.
The Wisp is published on Amazon.com. Also available on Amazon is Monsters, Real and Imagined, Tragic, Frightening, and Funny, All Too Brief, a collection of short stories and poetry. Strays, a collection of short stories and philosophical love poems, and Tattoo, Calling All Soldiers Home, a collection of poems in brevity.